and welcome to the Bobcat post-game report. It was retro night tonight at Time Warner Arena, a throwback to the old ABA days where the Bobcats were the Cougars and the Clippers were the Stars. But unfortunately, results were the same they've been the past few games as the Bobcats again outmanned in a game against a very talented Clipper/Stars team. Just really didn't have a chance tonight.
Yeah, we had a sellout crowd. We had a great energy for the throwback night. I have to say I was very impressed with how the NBA's done this for all the teams. Called them the Cougars, former ABA team, sellout crowd. You know, they're calling them the Cougars for the throwback uniforms, throwback music, throwback intros, nicknames. A great night, but once the game got started, once again, another tough night for the Bobcats. Lose by 25. Really no fight. I mean, it's just, like you said, an outmanned team. Injuries, whether they're lack of talent, when you face a team like the Clippers, who are on the way up with Blake Griffin, Chris Paul, you're going to have that kind of night. And that's what we had here at Time Warner Cable Arena.
Greg, you talked about it on our way coming up here. You got to feel for Paul Silas. The guy's a class act. He's a good coach, but just calling it like it's happened. He's got other players right now. He's got two very talented players, leading scorers out hurt right now. He's getting McGetty back. He's not full speed, though. But it's like going to a gunfight with a pea shooter when you have to play these teams out there, though. What are your thoughts?
What is really sad about this situation, I think, is the team isn't giving as much effort as they should. Because when you're in the locker room, you heard McGetty several times talk about effort. And Paul tuned into the team late in the third quarter when he called that timeout after the dunk by Griffin. And he got on the team for lack of effort. So even though they outmanned, you can still play hard. Last year, and I point back to this again, they finished the season with 8 players, and they played hard. They were without Stack Jack, they were out without some of the best players off their bench, but they still managed. The third guard on the Bobcats team was a guy from the D League that they brought up, who's now playing in China. So even last year, they were decimated by injuries, but they still played hard. So if you don't play hard, it doesn't matter how much talent is in the player. And this is not on Silas, but this is on the guys in the locker room who just quit.
Well, I agree 100%. I wanted to jump in on that because you made a good point earlier in the year when we were sitting up here doing our post-game show. You said, how long will it take before a team goes night in and night out and not just loses, but loses big like this consistently with a young team? How much before they're just too beat up and they want to give up or they're just, that they want to quit? I'm not saying this team has quit. They have definitely struggled and are terrible right now. But like you said, when they get beat up night in and night out, and you keep taking 30-point losses, 25, 40 in Portland, I mean, it takes a toll on you, no matter if you're a professional or who you are, and it's tough to rebound, and that's what they're going through now. You said that earlier in the year.
Well, I had the opportunity of coaching a season like this one time, and I mean, it is a very frustrating feeling when you're playing, not necessarily to win, but to keep from getting embarrassed. And this is 2 straight nights, big crowds here at home, and you get embarrassed by 2 good teams, and even, one of the visiting teams gets a standing ovation when he leaves the floor. That's got to be hard on these players.
And I think Paul said it in his post-game conference. Right now, it's a perfect storm. It's just nothing's going right, whether it's injuries. He has 30 points out with injury, like you talked about with Henderson, DJ. They might have been his 2 best players going into this season. They're out for an extended period of time. You have a team that just doesn't have the talent that other teams have. You have guys like Higgins, a rookie who probably should be in the D League. You have 2 other rookies starting. Kemba, he's a 9th pick, and Bismack's a 7th pick, and they're improving, but they're rookies. They're not asked to be carrying the team. So you add in injuries, you add in lack of talent, you add in a shortened season with all the 66 games, no practice time, no training camp really for this team to get prepared like they need to be. And all of this is rounded into one where we're finding out that this is the worst team in the NBA, and it's going to be hard to fix it during this season with no practice for Paul to teach the guys. So it's all coming into one big circle, and it's a freight train right now. I don't know how the Bobcats are going to stop it because, like me and Greg and you talked about on the way up here, where is a win in their future? We can't really find one right now. And we hate to say that. We love covering the Bobcats. We wouldn't be any other place. We love this organization. But right now, we don't know where to go from here. This is probably the lowest point that maybe this organization has seen.
Again, comparison right now, guys. From the city of Charlotte standpoint, I don't know which is harder, watching this team play or last year watching Jimmy Clausen quarterback the Carolina Panthers. You call that.
I'll answer that right now. I think this is worse. Because, yes, Jess Jimmy Clausen was terrible last year. 2-14 was one of the worst years. Let's remember, the Panthers went 1-15 a few seasons before that. So that wasn't even their worst year last year. And when the Bobcats came in as an expansion team, people expected them to be bad for a few years. But when you're in your 6th year, 7th year, whatever year it is, you're in your existence right now. You just come off a playoff a couple years ago, and you go down this low. We knew they were young. We knew they were rebuilding. But this right here, it's like I said, I don't know how to put it in the words. You see me kind of stuttering a little bit because I don't know what to say right now because that's how low it is. And I'm hoping that they have young guys they're building. Hopefully they can get a top draft pick. You said it the other night. What if this team has the worst record in the NBA and the lottery balls don't go their way and they don't get the #1 pick? I mean, that's just the things you got to do.
And that'd be the way their luck's going, not even the way in the
so
field.
So the NFL at least had that where the Panthers were guaranteed the first pick. They get a superstar in Cam Newton. And we also talked about this. You look at the NBA draft. Let's say the Bobcats get the #1 pick. There's not a sure superstar like Cam Newton was sitting there for somebody to take. So if the Bobcats take somebody, can it be successful? And do they have enough to even add to that? So a lot of questions for this team. Hopefully they can just keep using their young players, keep trying to grow as much as they can, get out of this funk to win a few games, and hopefully they can get it started at least on the right direction.
All right, my next question is this. Paul is saying, we'll get everybody healthy. But I'll be honest with you, the way the schedule's set up, playing so many games, so many days, and the NBA is doing a cram job of trying to get this season in so they can make money, I don't think this team will ever be healthy before the season's over. What do y'all think?
I think you're right. I think also, not only with them just being healthy, I think going back to what Dustin said, when you lose consecutive games like this, it weighs on you. And it's hard to break that funk. And looking at this schedule, and looking how compressed it is, the games mean more. They're 66, there's not 82. So each game is more. So each team, even these games here, teams are taking them really serious because they know they can't drop these games. They know they can't have a letdown. The Clippers knew they couldn't have a letdown tonight. That's why Blake and Paul played so late into the game. Every game is so important when you're trying to position yourself in the playoffs.
Now, let me flip to the other side. I've been negative this whole post-game show. But let me say, Paul is right on one fact. We talked about the injuries. And I told you this the other day. I'm not saying they would win more ball games than they're winning right now. But I'm telling you, if you had DJ and you had Henderson and you had Maggette and you had all those guys at full strength with Reggie Williams coming back from his injury, they would be a lot more competitive than they are right now. You wouldn't be seeing 35, 40-point losses. You'd be seeing closer games because Henderson is probably their best player. He's up and coming. He's improving every game. DJ was one of their leading scorers. I can see this team being competitive if they do get back healthy. That's a question mark. You never know if a team will get back healthy. But if they're fully healthy, I can see this team being competitive, maybe still in a couple games, but definitely playing closer. You won't see these games where at the end of the third quarter it's over. So I do see that on the flip side when these guys come back, that you will see a more competitive team.
The philosophy is on this, let's get bad so we can get good. But my big concern is with the young players you got on this team, you can ruin them. Their careers where they won't overcome something like this. If you get them so shell-shocked, I'm glad to see Mullins bounce back tonight with a double-figure game. But, I think he went with a stretch where he was playing great at the beginning of the year where he just lost all confidence. And you run into that risk about doing this, about the young players you got completely destroying them and don't know if they'll be able to bounce back.
Well, I think not only shell-shocked, but I think as people look at this organization from an outside standpoint, the Charlotte's already a small market team. They're already not going to pull that huge free agent name that they need to come in here and have a superstar. I mean, we look at Clippers tonight. We haven't even talked about them in this postgame show. A team that went from being the worst team in the league for years is now on the rise up. Why? They have two superstars in Chris Paul and Blake Griffin. And this team has a great mixture of guys. I mean, this is a team that's probably going to contend this year. But the Bobcats, they're in L.A. Can the Bobcats come and play with Blake Griffin or Chris Paul? Probably not unless they get a draft like Blake Griffin or Kevin Durant. So not only you say get bad to get better, you have to get bad to get better. All teams have to do that. But when you're 3-24 and the outside's looking at you, and maybe you want to go grab a free agent with your #1 pick next year, does somebody want to come here? Or do they say, you know what, yeah, they got the #1 pick and they're adding some young talent, but that team's miles away. So the outside looks at this team and says, there's different ways. You can look at it and say, well, they're bad, they're going to get better. I wouldn't mind going playing with Kemba, maybe the #1 pick, young guys. But when you're historically bad, like this team's had, 9 wins is the lowest record ever, and that's in a full 82-game season. We're looking at if they're going to get the 9 this year. So that's really just going to put another mark for free agents to do they want to come here.
Well, again, it's, the thing that concerns me, you said that too, nobody want to come, but you've got veteran players out there that probably would like a chance just to play again, maybe step in and help. And it baffles me a little bit with the injuries the Panthers have had, why they have not tried, excuse me, they changed the name, or the Cougars,
we went through it with the Panthers last year.
Right.
So, I mean,
on why they have not tried to improve this team at all. And that's one thing that I don't think is really fair to the fans, the season ticket holders, and people like that, though, because I feel like nothing has been done to try to improve this team to get it through the season. I know you want to be bad, but, are the fans going to go away? We heard boos tonight for the first time, loud boos.
Yes.
How long is it going to be before the bags come out?
I'll let Greg jump in here in just a second. I would agree to disagree with you on one point. I would agree that it is not fair to the fans to have this bad a team on the floor, and they do need to do something to improve it. But I would also disagree that you have to be careful when you go out and get those veteran players or what kind of contracts you give them. We talked about this at the start of the year. Kwame was a good fit for this team last year. He was the lowest paid guy on this team. Then there's no way you pay him $7 million to come back in. No, not paying that much. But I'm just saying you have to pick and choose. If there's veterans out here that need a chance that are better than what we got and they will play for a cheap amount, absolutely go sign on and make this team better. But just be careful because we've seen this team in the past give out bad contracts, aka Matt Carroll, aka Sagana Chop. We didn't give him the contract, but we traded for him. Be careful of giving out those kind of deals just to bring players in to make them better for a couple of games this year because you don't want to mortgage your future even more.
I mean, I'm just saying that.
I totally agree with you.
Right there, though. I mean, we've got, and I'm just being realistic there. There's guys right now that ought to be playing in Europe that are playing on this team.
Yes.
And there's veteran players out there that could come in and maybe help some of the younger players that go around. We got guys on this team, they're not going to be around for very long here. And they're bridging the gap. They're out there putting minutes in. But, I would like for some of these guys to actually learn how to win a little bit and not get demoralized and humiliated and go through what they're going through out there, though. And I just, I just wonder why, some steps aren't being done to improve this team any more than it is.
Coach, you make a good point, but it's difficult to get some of these players that maybe they're overseas in training. Maybe a J.R. Smith to come here when he has other offensive teams that are
contenders.
Right. And it's also difficult to even trade some of the guys that you have. You don't want to give up Kendall. You probably don't want to give up Biombo because you look at those as cornerstones.
Well, I'm not going to trade anybody unless it's some of the dead weight we've got. I'm just saying some of the guys that are out now playing right now that don't have contracts.
That's a good point, but you don't know if they want to come here. And some of the guys you probably don't want, like Boris, even though Boris is in his last year, who wants that guy?
Well, I'll just jump out and say we're running a little long on our post-game show. We didn't have one last night, so we're going to talk a couple more minutes. But basically, to jump onto that, I don't see any really free agents that are worthy coming here because they already see we have the worst record and we're not going anywhere up. So I don't see that happening. But I'll tell you what I do see. The trade deadline comes up here around the All-Star break or a little bit later on in the year this year since the lockout. I do see some moves being made.
That's what I was going to say. Is this team going to make any moves?
Whether it's trying to get rid of Boris to shed his contract, the only way they'll do that is if they get a young guy in return. They're not going to take on a big contract back because he has an expiring contract. But I could also see him, and this isn't necessarily making the team better, but I could see them maybe getting rid of trying to trade a guy like DJ. He's young. You can maybe get some pieces back for him and maybe let Kemba try to be your point guard of the future. If you trade DJ and try to get a piece back, then maybe you can fill in another spot on your team. It just depends. I mean, because their depth is terrible. Like you said, Corey Higgins with DJ Alsh your backup point guard. So if you trade DJ, depending on what you get back, that guy could still be your backup point guard. It's just going to depend on how they maneuver the deals. They're not going to take back any bad contracts because that would just totally wipe out what they're trying to do, which is rebuild. So it's going to be interesting to see how Jordan, how Higgins, Rod Higgins, and this is the guy I want to see step up. Cho. I want to see, he is the guy who they brought in. I think he's a mastermind. He's finally a guy who's not one of Jordan's buddies or connections, and he knows the game of basketball. He built Oklahoma City from a small market team to a contender now, and I want to see him make the moves to get this team where they need to be.
And again, I'm speaking more from, because I've got two hats, because I'm a season ticket holder. I got 4 season tickets, and I'm speaking from a fan right now. It's time to renew season's tickets, and I think there's a lot of people out there right now that want to see what's going to be done. We're not going to get tickets for 3 and whatever team again. They're to see what's going to be done to improve this team, and right now, nothing's being done. And I'm just wondering how long. We've said this, the fans have been great in Charlotte, turning out to support the team through the good and the bad, which has been more bad than good.
There has been good attendance this year.
How long is this going to continue? It's going to be interesting to see Monday night when you don't have a Blake Griffin or Chris Paul coming in or Derrick Rose who didn't play or something like that. Before we start seeing the crowds really drop and the bags come out.
I agree, and I'll let Greg jump in there.
The worst thing I think about this is that no one, I don't think, expect these guys to be this bad. I think that we knew there was going to be some struggles here, but at this point, I would have never guessed that they would.
And no one would have expected 4
Was
starters.
that not my concern when we talked about it in the air about what's happening right now?
It was your concern at the start, but I don't think anybody would have suspected Tyrus Thomas, Corey Maggette, Gerald Henderson, and DJ Augustine, your 4 top players on this roster, to all go down, not just for a couple games, but for extended time.
Well, you lose White for some games. And some other guys that are playing well.
I mean, you just named probably the 5 or 6 best players on this roster. And I'm not saying that's good talent, but I'm saying it's a lot better than what's out there right now. And I don't think Paul ever expected this organization ever expected it. It could have went back to, like you said, the NBA doing a cram schedule. You've seen more injuries around the league. But it's something every team has to deal with. But the problem is the Bobcats don't have the depth behind those guys to deal with it. Good teams do. And that's just what we're looking at right now. And it's just something, we keep saying it, but they're going to have to fight through it. Just play the best they can. Try to improve their young talent. One thing I have liked that they've done, Kemba Walker starting now, Bismack starting now. I want to see these young guys get minutes, and I want to see them improve because that's going to be your future. You 2 top 10 picks right there. So you're expecting them to pan out to be starters for years to come. So that's what I want to see.
And building on what you said, you talked about teams that can deal with injuries. Paul talked about tonight losing 30 points. The Bulls lost 30-plus points last night, the previous night, but they have a team in place that can make up those 30 points. This team doesn't have it. Not only are they young, but they haven't played a lot at this level. You have some young players on other teams that are paid. Brian Mullet sat on the bench for the longest. He even did a stint in the D League. You can go on and on to the young players that are here. Even DJ White did some time in the D League and spent a lot of time on the bench before he came here. So a lot of these young players have not even played at the professional level at all.
So you hit the nail on the head during the game when you said the Clippers/Stars tonight. Their second string could come in here and start for this team right now. And it's just like Paul said, too, you've got guys getting at the end of the game for them that are not hardly playing or used to playing that we're having to start play with.
Yeah, and I feel bad for Paul. He's on a 1-year deal that ends this year. I don't really see him coming back to be the coach next year. He's probably going to go ahead and retire. His son's probably going to be up for the job as well other guys, and that's going to be a huge part of this rebuilding process. Can they find the right coach to come in and coach these young guys and build up a franchise? Because the coach that comes in is going to have to realize, hey, we're going to have to go with young talent. We're going to have to build from the start. This isn't a team that's going to come in and win right away. And you got to have that right mindset to be able to do that. And you can't bring in, honestly, I want to use his name. You can't bring in a Larry Brown who's just going to go out there and make trades and trade the whole roster and then have you bad contracts for years. We got to the playoffs with him, but he kind of messed up with all these bad contracts and trades that he made. So I think you got to find a young coach, whether it's Steven Silas, who I think could be a good head coach, or you got to find another young guy who can come in with the mindset, hey, I'm young, these guys are young, let's start fresh and let's build something. That's going to be another huge key, not just bringing in players, but bringing in a good coach if Paul doesn't come back.
But another key, to jump on what you're saying, is what style are they going to play in the future?
Right.
Are they going to be a more up-tempo team? Are they going to be a control team?
And that depends on the coach. If Steven comes back, he may run Paul's same kind of philosophy. So you may not change too much, and that may be good for this franchise with young guys, not changing the whole thing around. You bring in another guy, he could be a defensive-minded guy. You just don't know. It just depends. I mean, it really just depends, and that's going to be a big piece of this future. I just want to see what this team can do the rest of the year. I'm still going to watch with interest because I want to see if these young players can grow, and I want to see, we talked about this before, professional athletes. No matter how hard, what times you have going, you got to step up because you're a professional athlete. So can these guys bounce back and not quit and produce? And I'll ask this question to y'all before we take it off the air real quick. Does this team, the lowest is 9 wins. Does this team beat it? Does this team not beat it? I mean, you're thinking about a shortened season here. We're 3-24, 27 games. So you're sitting with about 36, 37 games left. So what do you think?
I think it's going to go right down the wire with them. Instead of them competing to get the playoffs, they're going to compete to see if they can keep from being the worst team record-wise ever in the NBA.
And this comes to me from a media guy and as a fan of the Bobcats. I'm a native Charlottean. I don't want to see that happen because you think about it. If they don't get to 9 wins, not only is it the lowest ever, it's the lowest ever in a shortened season. It's not even a full year. And that would just be another black eye on a franchise that's trying to build a fan base. And I don't want to see that. And Greg, I'm sorry to jump in. What was your answer about what you think about 9 wins? Is the lowest?
I said I agree with Coach, but at the same time, I think I can give a better answer to that in the middle of next month, because then we'll see the next 2 to 3 weeks what has happened. Have they maybe gotten a couple of upsets, or have they continued to lose? But if they go deep, I would say if they go deep, I mean 24, 25 consecutive losses. I can see them definitely only winning like 6 or 7
and mine's
games.
kind of a wait and see answer too. I mean,
Right.
we didn't mention it tonight. 14th loss in a row tonight, franchise record. But mine is, if this team gets back healthy for just a stretch, it doesn't have to be the rest of the year, but just a stretch with their full complement of players, I think they get more than 10 wins. But if they continue to stay healthy, where their best guys are missing extended time, they can't get there. They just don't have the talent. So I'm hoping these guys can come back, just stay healthy for the rest of the year for a couple months just to get this team back on a little bit of the right track. And I think they can do it if they get back healthy. DJ may play Monday. Henderson's about a week away. So guys are coming back. Let's hope we can go together.
The history of this really quickly is when teams were about to break that record, even going back to when Dallas just gave Jimmy Jackson the money that he wanted coming out of Ohio State. So he could come in and they win more than 9 games. I think Dallas won 11 or 12 games that year. Every team that has come close to that, they usually turn it on in the last 3 to 4 weeks. So it's really difficult to assess even now to say, hey, will they break that record or not? Because teams tend to play at a higher level than they were before. I don't know why. Maybe because they want to avoid embarrassment. But was it a few years ago? Was it New Jersey?
Yeah.
And so how New Jersey turned it on?
16.
Right. So how New Jersey turned it on at the end and end up not winning more than those 9 games.
So before I pass it on to the coach to sign it off, I want to hear, like you said, you're a season ticket holder. I want to hear from the fans. I want to hear from season ticket holders. Are you just disgusted, or do you know that this is a time where they're going to be young and they're going to lose and you want to rebuild? Would you renew your season tickets? Would you go to games? Go to CoxSportsBroadcasting.com. Leave us an email. Go to his Twitter, Coach's Corner 43. My Twitter, Dustin Phifer. Greg J. Jones, is that right, Twitter?
Yes,
Let us know. What are you thinking right now about this team? Are you fed up? You done with games? You going to watch? Or are you going to give it some time to build? And we want to see what they think, and maybe we can talk about it on the radio show next week.
Tune in Wednesday night when we'll be with Coach's Corner at Fats, and you can find out. Ending on a positive note tonight, I like the retro. I want to see us go back and be the Cougars from now on. I love the music. That was the thing entertaining to me tonight, though.
We got 4 more games this year.
I think this is great what they're doing with that. I love going back to ABA, look there, the different uniform, but I'd love to see this team.
And let's throw that out there. That's the one thing the Bobcats have going as an organization. They put on great entertainment, whether if it's not on the court, they do a great family atmosphere. They do a great job of getting fans involved, whether it's T-shirts, whether getting them on the big TV up there, whatever it is. We do got to give them credit for that. They're Class A when it comes to giving it at least a good, fun environment when you come in, whatever the product is on the court.
That's the main thing. And don't forget the 2-time NBA dance team champion, Lady Cats. I think I've actually, since I had
this year, right? Is that what we're going for?
Three-peat, because I've actually watched them. I think they've come up with some great routines this year, though. And again, that's what makes the things kind of get you through the tough times of games is the fun things, though. Yeah. So we appreciate you tuning in. For Greg Jones, for Dustin Phifer, I'm the coach, Dick Cox. We'll be back to do it again on Monday night as the 76ers come to town. Stay warm. We'll see you Monday. Good night, everybody.